Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios deep in the heart of stately Maine Manor, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, folks. I am your host, Joey Harris, and we are just going to dive right into what is happening, folks. Great Royal Rumble, Bianca Belair and Edge are your two winners, and it looks like we are getting ready and set for WrestleMania. But a lot of things can happen in between now and then, and we are digging out of snow here in Maine. I know, snow in February in Maine, what a phenomenon. But no, I kid. We are digging out from snow. We got snow yesterday as I record this, but it wasn't that bad. We got snow, but it was a drier snow, and the wind was just blowing enough that it blew most of the snow off the cars. When I went and got my wife's car this morning, I didn't have to clean that much snow off. There was a little bit of ice, but that had pretty much all gone away by the time my wife came out to go to work. So thankful for that. Thankful that I am continuing along with my lifestyle changes. I've seen a few pounds drop off, but not as much as I thought was going to drop off, but we take all of the minor gains that we can get here. And this is an interesting show. Today we look at WrestleWar 90, Wild Thing from the NWA and WCW. WrestleWar 90, Wild Thing was broadcast on pay-per-view on February the 25th, 1990 from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina. There were 7,894 people in attendance. And my God, they start with the rap. They must have prepaid for it and said, we've got to get our money's worth, because man, do they show this rap, buddy. And that creepy visual. If you've never seen this show, go and look at it. The creepy visual of the disembodied voice of Ric Flair saying Wild Thing while it comes out of his mouth while he's on the video introduction. It's just something else. Jim Ross and Terry Funk welcome us to WrestleWar 90. They say that Dan Spivey is injured and will not wrestle. This is a cover-up, as Spivey had actually quit the NWA shortly before this. They quickly run down the championship matches before throwing it to Gordon Solie. Solie talks to Teddy Long. He says he has a replacement for Dan Spivey that he will unveil tonight. Kevin Sullivan and Buzz Sawyer versus the Dynamic Dudes, Shane Douglas and Johnny Ace. This is the last time ever tagging for the Dynamic Dudes. Ross talks about Buzz Sawyer's high school athletic career, so if you're drinking at home, take a shot. Douglas is chopped hard by Sullivan. Sullivan and Sawyer have a slight disagreement and slap each other. Sawyer hits the corner post hard. Ross then talks about Ruse being a sponsor. If you're drinking at home, take another shot. Douglas taken outside and injured. Sawyer hits a nice belly-to-belly suplex. Douglas thrown over the top rope. Sawyer wins after a top rope splash. Missy Hyatt talks to Norman. He cons her out of a kiss and a hug. Cactus Jack Manson versus Norman the Lunatic. Norman gets a good reaction coming out. Funk says that he has the head of a buffalo and the body of Roseanne. Ouch. Cactus Jack attacks right away. Cactus Jack takes a big bump for Norman. He bumps again over the corner post. He goes outside, and Cactus Jack bumps over the guardrail. Both Ross and Funk put over Cactus Jack hard. Norman wins after falling straight down after Cactus Jack tries a sunset flip. Gordon Solie talks to Jim Cornette in the Midnight Express. He says that some things never change. Tonight, the Midnight Express will prevail over the Rock and Roll Express. Folks, it's funny, other than the Norman Cactus match and the main event, every other match on this card is a tag match, which is strange for this time of year. But to me, this next match is the match of the night. It's the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson versus the Midnight Express, Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton with Jim Cornette. Now, these two teams, I think, can have a great match in their sleep. Funk starts singing rock and roll lyrics early. These two teams have wrestled each other hundreds of times. The Rock and Roll with the early advantage. Cornette gets into it with referee Nick Patrick. Slow to start. Morton goes after Cornette after he cheats. The Rock and Roll dominating the match. Morton and Eaton take a big over-the-top rope bump. The Midnight Express take over. The Midnight Express double team to perfection. Morton plays the face in peril like no one else. Gibson finally tagged in. Cornette whacks him with the racket, but it only gets a 2 count. Gibson wins with a cradle. Gordon Soley talks to the Road Warriors and Paul Ellering. They say they don't underestimate anyone. Chicago Street Fight, the Skyscrapers, Mass Skyscraper and Mark Callis with Teddy Long versus the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal with Paul Ellering. The Mass Skyscraper is actually Mike Enos, who is one half of the AWA Tag Team Champions at the time with Wayne Bloom. WCW hired 2 guys to drive the Road Warriors 10 feet on their Harleys. That is just unbelievable. I am literally shaking my head at that. Ellering challenges Long, who accepts and gets pushed out of the ring. This is just a big brawl. Doom come down dressed in tuxedos at one point and stand beside Long. Hawk hits a big clothesline off the apron on Callis. They then hit the Doomsday device on Mass Skyscraper to win. They pull Long into the ring and then throw him on Doom, who catch him. Doom climbs in and they go at it with the Road Warriors. Jim Ross and Terry Funk reset at the halfway point. Every match from here on is a title match. United States Tag Team Championship match. Brian Pillman and the Z-Man Tom Zink versus the Fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin. The faces with the early advantage. Ross has to bring up Pillman's football background, so if you're drinking at home, take another shot. The Freebirds bumping hard for both faces. Hayes gets Pillman in a sleeper. Pillman almost gets a pin off of a roll-through. Garvin hits Zink with a shot, as Zink had Hayes in a sleeper. The Freebirds in control. The faces come back. Hayes wears down Zink with a sleeper. Lots of sleepers in this match. Zink hits a DDT and tags Pillman in. Garvin holds Zink for Hayes to hit with a belt, but Hayes gets caught by the ref, so Garvin shoves Zink into a cameraman. Pillman hits Garvin with a crossbody to win. Even though they're the United States Tag Team Champions at this point, the team of Z-Man and Pillman is really the Brian Pillman show. You can tell that he is the star of the team, and they are really going out of their way to put a shine on him and to promote him. NWA World Tag Team Championship match. Rick and Scott Steiner versus Ole and Arn Anderson. All 4 brawl to start. The Steiners stick to wrestling after things settle down. The Andersons are frustrated. Ross brings up Rick Steiner's college credentials as you enter alcohol blackout status. The Andersons finally get the advantage. Scott gets Arn in a figure 4. He then hits a big suplex on Ole. They fight outside. The Andersons are going after the injured arm of Scott. Scott does manage to get the Frankensteiner on Arn, but is injured bad. Ole and Rick both finally tagged in. Rick hits Steiner lines on both Andersons. He pins Ole with a small package. The Andersons attack Scott Steiner after the bell. Gordon Soley talks to Lex Luger. He's ready for Ric Flair and ready to be champion. Jim Ross and Terry Funk talk about the main event. Gordon Soley talks to Ric Flair and Woman. He says he's been the king of the sport for 10 years and fears no man. Gary Michael Capetta introduces Sting, who comes out on crutches to be the official observer to the match. NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. Ric Flair with Woman versus Lex Luger. Ross and Funk set the pace for how important this match is. It's Ric Flair's birthday. A Luger chant goes out to begin. They do some wrestling and power holds to start. Ross brings up Luger's football career if you're drinking at home and have recovered from your previous blackout. Flair gets hit and takes a powder, but Luger follows him and brings him back. Luger can't get a pinning predicament. Flair's plane crash is then brought up if you feel like donating your liver to science. Flair works in the Flair flop. Luger misses a clothesline. Flair takes over and opens up the chop house. Then Luger fights back. Flair uses the ropes for advantage. The announcers talk about Flair getting desperate. Woman interferes for Flair. Luger gets the second win. The crowd really gets into it. Luger gets the sleeper on. Flair gets to the ropes. Luger hits a big power slam and was close to a 3 count. Flair rolls out. Back in, Luger gets a backslide for 2. Flair hits a move from the top rope. He then does it again. Flair gets the sleeper on. Luger powers out. He will not stay down. Flair works on Luger's leg. Flair gets the figure 4 on. Sting makes his way to ringside on crutches. Luger gets to the ropes. Sting tries to motivate Luger. Flair retreats from Luger. Luger is a man possessed. Big power slam. Woman interferes. Flair attacks. The referee gets knocked down. Flair gets caught coming off. Luger hits a superplex. The Andersons hit the ring. Luger takes them out. Luger puts Flair into the torture rack. The Andersons grab Sting. Luger comes to Sting's aid. The referee then counts him out. The Andersons and Flair attack Luger. The Steiners come to the rescue. Ross and Funk talk about the match. The credits then roll as they sign off from Greensboro. Hey folks, if you like the show, please leave a review in iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your podcast platform of choice. There are a number of ways that you can contact me. You can follow the show's Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. You can email the show, cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I am at the Joey Harris. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey Harris saying so long from Stately Maine Manor.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.